Good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. We thank you for joining us in this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinoxe Television. Let's begin right away. In politics, close to 20 supporters of the PADEC political party have crossed the carpet to the Cameroon Renaissance movement of Professor Maurice Kamto. They took the decision today in Douala over what they described as a disgrace by Jean de Dieu Momo to support the candidacy of the CPDM natural candidate Paul Biya. The PADEC Vice President Sylvanus Tifu told journalists in the city of Douala today that they were not consulted by Jean de Dieu Momo before deciding to stand behind the CPDM candidacy. We can see the various supporters of the PADEC political party that were swearing to stand behind the candidacy of Professor Maurice Kamto of the Cameroon Renaissance movement. It is ahead of the 7th of October 2018 presidential election in Cameroon. And the vice president of the PADEC political party that has now crossed the carpet into the Cameroon Renaissance movement, Sylvanus Tifu, was speaking to Equinoxe Television. Let's hear him in the following excerpt as to why he decided to cross the carpet. Take a listen. And that except, of course, we would certainly be coming back to that in our subsequent newscast. We continue to talk about politics, this time around the Social Democratic Front Party that has won the Director General of Elections Cameroon to remove the newly created polling stations in some military barracks in the nation's capital, Yaoundé, precisely in the Yaoundé 1 and 6 subdivisions before it is too late. The SDF has said that Eric Esuse should have himself to blame if anything happens if the decision is not respected. Let's have the details with our reporter, Mfomi Armstrong Sanda.
On the list of polling stations published by Yaoundé 1 and Yaoundé 6 subdivisional branches of Elections Cameroon, Social Democratic Front Central Regional President Emmanuel Tonga denounced the creation of polling stations in military barracks.
As we have asked before, that all polling stations should be removed in military barracks, and that has not been done. And we have seen that last week, the same Elecam has opened 3 others polling stations at the Biya Etudi Palace. While at this time Mr. Biya will be going to vote in Bastos. What are the 3 polling stations for? That is about 1,500 military who are going to vote there. Can they show us where are these military?
Article 96/4 of the country's electoral code say all polling stations should be situated in public places or open to the public. Hence, the Social Democratic Front Party thinks that the military barrack and the presidential palace are not areas open to the public.
The NEC decided that Elecam should remove all these polling stations in military barracks. Else, in the coming weeks, the SDF and ourselves here in the center are going to take strong strategy, and we advise Mr. Esuse, the Elecam General Director, to take his responsibility.
Our effort to meet Elecam officials did not yield fruit. From subdivisional to regional branches in the central region, Elecam officials could only refer us to the Directorate General of Elections Cameroon. But one could remember that few weeks ago, the Central Regional Delegate of Elecam made a statement on this issue. She attested to have received the complaints against polling stations in military barracks. Categorically, she said the Central Region had no polling station in a military barrack. She also assured us of having instructed her collaborators to forward the names for relocation of polling stations in military barracks within their sphere of competencies. What then happened that the list published recently have polling stations in military barracks in the central region is the question begging for answers. The Social Democratic Front Party is raising the alarm roughly 2 months to the presidentials.
Last week, we always meet Mr. Esuse to remind him that the SDF has met before. Mr. Babale had written to the defense minister that we want that this polling station should be withdrawn in these barracks. Mr. Esuse told us that in 8 days he will give us an answer. And now we are 12 days behind and we have no answer.
The controversy is deepening with 2 months to the publication of the list of polling stations. Article 97 of the Electoral Code demands that the list of polling stations be published latest 8 days to the voting day, that is the 29th of September 2018.
And 4 hostages kidnapped by some highway robbers along the Tibati-Ngaoundéré highway, that is in the Adamawa region of Cameroon, have so far been set free by elements of the Rapid Intervention Battalion. They were liberated after a shootout between security forces and the bandits. It should be noted that one of the abducted individuals was simply killed during the said shootout, and one member or element of the Rapid Intervention Battalion was shot in the leg. Details with Sumanjika Gabriel.
A prayer to thank Allah for liberating them from the hands of their kidnappers. Asana was the youngest amongst the 4 hostages liberated by the elements of the Rapid Intervention Battalion Force B in Ngaoundéré recently. Asana was whisked at Tuboro village and his adopters demanded for a ransom of 3 million francs CFA, which was not raised by his parents. As a result, he was well tortured. Buba Adama, Alhaji Mustafa and Baba Dairu were the others set free. All of the 3 were picked up at Lewa village, all under the Metap subdivision in Ngaoundéré. Reuniting with their family members after their release was another sad moment. In the course of the shootout between the elements of a B and the highway robbers, one of the adopted person was killed while a B officer was wounded on his leg. All 7 highway robbers successfully escaped, but for these foodstuffs, dresses and other items that were taken by the elements of the Rapid Intervention Force. The operation to liberate the hostages was led by Lieutenant Colonel Desiré Mai Douang. The stretch between Ngaoundéré and Tibati has been noted for highway robbery.
About circulation that was paralyzed along the Mbopi stretch of road here in the country's economic capital, Douala. It is a similar situation as we speak. A lorry transporting a container is at the origin of the traffic congestion that has paralyzed the activities of road users. The lorry is reported to have suffered a brake failure and dived into a church that is blocking a section of the road. Though no life was endangered, a commercial motorcycle was destroyed as a result of the accident. The driver of the lorry has been detained at the Mbopi Gendarmerie Brigade here in the country's economic capital, Douala. Now, in the nation's capital, Yaoundé, we talk about the Bilingualism Commission that has met with the Multi-Sector Regional Office, or the Director of the Multi-Sector Regional Office of the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization. The Director, Mr. Salet Khaled, said that Cameroon needs to develop the capacity of the younger generation by teaching them the true history of Cameroon, an essential endeavor which he believes is not well developed in some Central African countries. He was speaking in Yaoundé after an audience granted him by Peter Mafani Musonge, that is the president of the National Commission for the Promotion of Bilingualism and Multiculturalism. Mr. Khaled Salah is a graduate of the American University with a master degree in political science. Let's now have an excerpt of the Director of the Multi-Sector Regional Office of UNESCO. He was speaking in Yaoundé today to Marcel Ngangso.
For UNESCO, it's very important to collaborate with the Commission on Bilingualism and Multiculturalism. As you know, UNESCO stands for the promotion of cultural diversity and tolerance and the values for peace building, essential for peace building. We have discussed through this great opportunity today that has been offered to me, the possible partnership with the Commission on programs related to education, to to culture, to communication and information, to social and human sciences.
And on to something else, the African Union is now stepping up efforts to raise African countries from the producers to transformers, or from producers to transformers of agricultural products. It is to enable them to reap the benefits of the value chain. The international workshop on the issue is currently taking place in the country's economic capital, Douala, and it is bringing together experts and stakeholders from the United States of America. Details with Babla Jonathan.
Many African countries are incurring enormous loss in income and other benefits from agricultural products because they only produce and export. Very little or nothing of what is produced in African countries are transformed locally. This puts them out of the value chain.
We always say that African economies are exporting raw products, and it's not the best. Actually, exporting raw produce because we are actually exporting jobs.
This has been attributed to infrastructural and policy flaws.
You look at the infrastructure that exists in the various countries. You look at the issue of power is key. You look at the private sector to drive this value addiction is key.
Experts and stakeholders from different African countries are discussing the prioritization and validation of the regional agricultural value chains of the economic community of Central African states in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala.
The workshop that is taking place here in Douala is centered on the prioritization, identification and prioritization of the agro-commodities that are strategic ones for each country. How could some commodities be developed for the interest of the national interest of the economies, and how could these commodities, how could authorities, national authorities within the region contribute to promote intra-regional trade of food, agricultural products.
In Cameroon, government says it is working towards the value chain through its second-generation agriculture policy.
The second-generation agriculture policy is focused on how to promote the production, but over the production, beyond the production. We are looking to reach transformation so that we could really develop a value chain in agriculture in our country. That is our main challenge, and we are working in that direction.
Cameroon has the environment, they have the climate, so the policy needs to support production. The credit policy, the trade policy, in terms of providing the enabling environment, in terms of infrastructure to move their produce from the farm to the market.
And this is why, since its creation in 1977, the African Union Semi-Arid Food Grains Research and Development, AU SAFGRAD, has been working to facilitate policy development in view of building an integrated, prosperous and peaceful Africa, driven by its own citizens.
Managing youths during the period of the holidays and keeping them out of trouble is a major challenge to some parents, especially here in the country's economic capital, Douala. Religious officials have underscored the need for children to be nurtured spiritually so that they can be an example, especially when they finally return to school. It is the major objective behind an interdenominational event organized by the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon that is taking place in the city of Douala. Close to 200 kids from the southwest, the northwest and the littoral regions of Cameroon, as well as other parts of the country, are now converging on Douala to that effect. We are going to be having an excerpt of one of the promoters and facilitators at the youth camp here in the city of Douala. She was speaking to Equinoxe Television.
It's a yearly event organized by the youths of the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon, but it is an interdenominational event that brings youths together to nurture them in the fear of the Lord, that they will grow knowing that without God, life is useless. And so we come each year together at any venue chosen by Christ to impact the lives of the children spiritually, because we seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, then we would have other things added onto their lives. I use this opportunity to encourage every parent out there to do the best he or she can to sponsor a child, to sponsor an orphan, to sponsor somebody, to encounter Christ. The foundations of the world are shaken because people are not standing on the solid rock, who is Jesus Christ. And so we come to this camp to lay that foundation.
We now talk about the planned protest of the mayor of the Boya municipality, Mayor Kema Patrick, that took place hitch-free but attended just by few. It kicked off this afternoon, several hours before the preview time. The protesters, led by Mayor Kema Patrick, mobilized at the Boya Independence Square, where they marched to the governor's office holding peace plans and placards. Other grievances added to the list of the mayor, that of putting an end to secession and for the return to peace in the southwest region of Cameroon. The mayor organized the protest to kick against the kidnapping of Faku chiefs and the death of one of them recently, that is the chief of Lisaka, His Royal Highness Chief Mbanda Njie. They are also against the convening of the Anglophone General Conference. A message addressed to the President of the Republic of Cameroon was handed to the Governor of the Southwest region, Governor Bernard Okaliabila. It should be noted as well that the Mayor of the Boya municipality has equally announced that motorbikes have so far been banned. That is going to be starting tomorrow, the 1st of August 2018, having banned from circulating within the municipality. The business premises that were sealed by the Boya Council would simply be opened as from this evening. That brings us to the end of this first segment of the news. Certainly we'll be coming back to that report in our subsequent newscast. Up next is Talking Point. We have been joined tonight by a political analyst, Mr. Akojon. Mr. Akojon, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Evening, Mimi. Once more, we are here to talk about Cameroon.
Of course. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, the pleasure is mine.
Tonight, we are going to be talking politics and, of course, what happened in Boya today that has been at the center of attraction. For the past few days now, we've been, the mayor of the Boya municipality has been carrying a series of measures to seal the doors of shop owners that are respecting the ghost town or staying indoors on Mondays, that is naturally or being observed as ghost town in the northwest and the southwest regions of Cameroon. Today we saw a protest that was orchestrated and led by the mayor of the Boya municipality. What is your reaction, Mr. Akojan?
Yeah, I will first of all like to make a bit of analysis on the circumstances of the mayor of Boya. The mayor of Boya have been a very controversial mayor, that individual that was voted by the people, but in several instances we have seen him standing against his own people. Remember, this is a mayor voted by the people but now represents the state rather than representing his people. And most often than not, he feels that he needs an accomplishment. He has a lot of things to accomplish and to tell the government that he is with the government rather than with his own people. It is the lone mayor in the whole of the... Yes, I'm saying that he is the lone mayor in the whole of the southwest region. The lone mayor that we talk about him. And so why him? He always has the capacity of taking actions against the interests of the people and always trying to get the state to him feeling like he is doing so.
He said he's a peacemaker. He's just trying to restore peace in the southwest regional headquarters of Boya. That is why the march that began
I just
from
wanted
the
to talk
council
about,
to the governor's
I just wanted to talk about him as a person, then getting into his activities. Because when you realize Patrice Ekema has been a very recalcitrant mayor, and I will tell you that if he has done what he's doing today, you will get from you your accepts. If I own a business place and I'm not ready to open it, I've not seen any law of the land where you go back to seal those people's shops. These people, irregularly, they have been paying. And on the other side, the business people within the town of Boya ask him to take an engagement that if the stores or their shops are being burned, let him accept to reimburse what was there. And he's not able of standing within this. And we have seen a lot of stores being burned. for purposes of peace, I believe this particular mayor knows why he is doing what he's doing. And a host of other people keep on crawling around him to support and take him further. He knows he's awaiting after, even if he is not voted, the government will not let him, because our government, the government we have, is a government that appoints and promotes those who stand for them, even if it means to die.
What about the tens of people who stood by him today in Boya?
Yeah, that is what I'm saying. That most often than not, you have always a score of some people, even when, no matter how bad you are, even your family members will not throw you out. And so within it, Kema Patrick is not alone. He has a lot of people who also believe that if he has to go further tomorrow, he will hopefully go with them. And this is why they are moving with him. He's not alone. You said 10,000. You just imagine, I don't think there were up to 300 people on the streets of Boya. But you remember SDF?
They were not up to 150.
Yes, good. So you realize that the same meeting that was made by SDF some time ago, we knew the crowd that the chairman of the SDF pulled while he was in Boya. This is the mayor of the town. And what do we see? It is quite a disgrace that we have leaders who don't represent the intention of the people and always claiming they are for the people. He left today for a march past when we know the situation of the town. Imagine, if not for purposes of peace, that no incident had been recorded. The march to the governor is the governor knew in town.
So to you, the mayor is not working for the people?
And it is not the interest. I'm just saying that he has an egoistic interest he's presenting to the public. And this is what he wants. That every time the press should come closer to him, the press should talk about him. This is what he's doing. At any time they feel like we are not getting about Kema Patrick, he wants people to hear that he's doing something. He is going to talk against eminence, Cardinal Tumi, whom every individual, after this effort, a lot of academicians, scholars have in fact applauded. That is a step forward. And Patrick Ekema has the guts to come and march against the move of Cardinal and his group that they will not hold the meeting in Boya. And they are addressing a letter to the head of state.
After the Minister of Communication actually said that they are not against any move that is going to consolidate peace and unity in Cameroon.
They are not against. And then you find a mayor of his age. I don't know. It comes back to corroborate that this guy never and really has not been in school, and that he lacks a lot of mental understanding of what we call administrative governance.
So what could possibly be the stakes of this move by the mayor of the Boya municipality on the announced or convened Anglophone General Conference?
One is to persuade the head of state that the meeting should not hold. And secondly, what you will see is that the government has never had an interest that Anglophone Cameroonians should unite. And since there is a real intention with the plan of the cardinal and the Presbyterian Church and the imams of the two regions, they have an intention of coming to form a bloc of Anglophones that will talk to the government as one. And
the government spokesperson has made a statement that the government is not against any move
that is what I'm saying,
to fortify unity and peace in Cameroon.
I will tell you
and
now.
And the initiative of Christian Cardinal Tumi is not an exception.
It was the meeting of the Minister of Communication was coming immediately after this.
The curiosity is the controversy around it with regards to the outing of the mayor of the Boya municipality.
What I'm insisting now is that you realize that, as I said, this guy has never read, he has never been to school, and does not know how governance functions. I don't see how the Minister of Communication, which is the mouthpiece of the state, will come and applaud and support an effort which is going to keep Cameroon peaceful, and then another individual who is not even classified within the administrative circle comes out to tell us that he is marching against such a meeting. Knowing their letter, we already been, there are insinuations that the letter will be carrying that the meeting in Boya on the 29th, the 30th of this month should not hold. These are, in fact, certain circumstances when we see them, we feel like we are being led by animals rather than by human beings. I begin to believe that animals may reason better than certain human beings, who we call them delegates or those who represent us. There is a whole fictitious idea within the CPTM rank. You realize that most often the militants of the CPTM use the springboard of politics to perpetrate individual interests rather than the interests of the people. I am always shocked, and I'm saying this time and again, that a state is constructed by the people and it is for the people. We rule according to the dictates of what the people want, not what we want. It is only, I come back to the legend. Nelson Mandela said, It will save a human being nothing for saving himself rather than saving the interests of the people. And so if you are called to govern, you do so for the interests of your people, not for your own egoistic interest. There have been a lot of others. I believe Patrick Gema is equally hoping that after elections...
Apparently, there's a lot more to talk about the situation in Buea, but there are equally other pressing issues, like we see some supporters of the PADEC political party that have decided to cross the carpet after Jean de Dieu Momo and other political party leaders decided to rally behind the CPDM candidate, President Paul Biya. What do you have to say about that? Did it come as a surprise to you, or you actually saw that coming?
Yeah, on this same channel, I believe you have been doing a lot, and I have been several times on this same agenda. I have said, when we call ourselves opposition party, and such opposition party are being sponsored by the ruling party, you call yourself an opposition party who is ready to accept change, to bring change to the people, and on the eve of the election, you decide to rally behind the government you said you were fighting against. It is just, I call, an atmosphere of confusion that many Cameroonians are still coming to self-egoistic interests. Many have insulted the other opposition that they are unable. The fact that opposition is unable to form a unique platform for the opposition, does that give an opposition party the power, the impetus to join the ruling party? It means you are just surely acting in a different color but having the same character. In fact, I was embarrassed. I will not tell you, I've said a lot of people that the movement of Maître Momo really shocked me. And today, we see it within the ranks of the members of his own party, how they are crossing over to the other political parties.
Because they feel disappointed.
He decided to impose on party militants his own witch, rather than the witch of the party. Before you carry on an act, as a party leader, you consult your collaborators and see if they are okay with the move. But what we see in it is that they have been identified, and I have said again several times, a group of them who decided to join the ruling party to campaign for them. I said they represent little or nothing. I mean, all their votes gathered, 20 of them, won't form even 1% of the electoral college in Cameroon.
But just for precision, Equinoxe Television got to Barrister Jean de Dieu Momo, who actually indicated or reacted following the resignation of some of his party supporters to the CRM political party. Said it was taken by surprise and that it was a unanimous decision for the PADEC political party to join the ranks of the CPDM or support the CPDM candidate. Before we go, Mr. John Ako, the Social Democratic Front is actually complaining about the presence of polling stations in military barracks and the presidential palace in Cameroon. Do you think that it could be a threat negatively to the opposition in the country at the time when we are talking about change in power? Yeah,
one, it is not new. I just want to tell you that if SDF has been vigilant this time, it is not new that if we are talking of multiple polling stations in environment or circumstances which are not accessible to the public, because remember, if a polling station cannot be set maybe in a church, the most important place is an academic or a school environment. But when we find now polling stations at the level of the military barracks, then there's a problem. We found polling stations at the presidency of the republic. And we know the characteristics that we take to relocate a polling station per each area, per each quarter, or whatever environment we have to do. In fact, people said should be at least 1,500 voters within such environment before we can place voters there. At the presidency of the republic, we are going to have about 3 polling stations. And the head of state by himself, as a controversy, will be voting in Bastos. So we ask, is it that the name of the head of state doesn't feature on the list in a 2D and instead at Bastos? Or what is the reason? These are just one of the electoral malpractices that have been going on in Cameroon. One of it, which I want again to signal, where the SDF still need to find out, is that when you get on the number of people registered in voting on the electoral list, you realize that sooner or later, you will realize that the South region, which is the least in population, will be having the highest number of voters than even 2 regions combined, which means there have been multiple voters more multiplied in the South region than in any part of Cameroon. And they are going to present to us a lot of those polling stations in the South and the Central region than you will find in the North, in Adamawa, or even in Gaundere. I just want to tell you that.
You're just drawing the attention of opposition leaders.
Yes, if there is sincerity in the next election, SDF, as the main opposition party, has the right to ask the electoral body, the ELECAM, to do a lot of cleansing and publishing to us who are the voters and in which region,
so that
how many numbers are there, so that we can save this nation from the threat of electoral failure.
Thank you so much, Mr. Akojon, for joining us tonight on Talking.
The pleasure is mine with me.
The pleasure is ours as well. Thank you so much for your time. To our viewers, it was equally a pleasure having with us in this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinoxe Television. Wishing you a blessed stay in the company of our programs. Until we meet again, goodbye.